Well, hello there. It is time for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or the Sorcerer's Stone, 1M5 mail delivery. Music by John Williams, orchestrated by Conrad Pope. So here we go at this. So this is, I guess you would call it the classic iteration of Hedwig's theme, or the main theme. And what we'll try and do is sort of show you what's going on here. I'm just going to move that there so you can see the whole thing in that bit. And then compare it with the previous iterations as well. So that's something to bear in mind. So we start off Mysterioso, E minor. It does seem to be in that specific key quite often, actually, I must say. And just with our synth Celeste, it does what it does normally, sort of E pedal, and then chord tones, and then we've got this kind of ambiguous chord here, where we got the D sharp and the A sharp. And of course that D changes from a D natural to a D sharp. You know, sometimes it's like that as well. So it does sort of seem to change thereon, and also it's deliberately sort of slightly wrong, wrong note, a sort of thing that, Shostakovich might do, or Prokofiev for that matter as well. So really that should be a B, but it's just been flattened by one interval. So it acts like a dominant. And then after this sort of dyadic bit of, let's call it non-imitative counterpoint, we're then into this fantastic sort of transformation, which is wonderful. So a typical sort of neo-Riemann thing, so where you have F and then A, so it's this sort of mediant relationship. That goes up and that goes down, and these remain the same. So it almost acts like an augmented sixth chord, really, in a funny sort of way, in the sense that both notes which are dependent move outwards from each other. And also because they're in that specific sort of second inversion to first inversion configuration, that's what makes it sort of really interesting, like that, and mysterious. And then we've got this sort of F sharp 7 type chord, and again that sort of can change every single time it happens. There's always some slight variance or slight differentiation between each iteration of this particular thing. But of course, there's a lot that's been said about this theme and how it sort of works as well. I like the sort of the lilting sort of quality of it, and also there's something rather English about that as well. I'm not quite sure. I think sort of like a sort of green sleeves type sort of thing, and also it's rather passive. So it's interesting how the melody sort of actually works. And then, so that's more sort of progressive and positive. That's more recessive. So classic, repeat the first bar, and then vary, but essentially it's the same sort of idea in terms of rhythm. And then this is now elongated, these two beats, into one. Then it reappears. And it's really interesting, if we sort of put them all together, it's all chromatic, like that as well. So it's a really fascinating theme, and it's very short as well. It's not sort of, it doesn't have the complexity of, say, Anakin's theme, for example, in Phantom Menace. But it's still really intriguing, and I wonder, the fact that he only wrote it in one evening, it's sort of annoying, but I suppose that happens, doesn't it? Sometimes inspiration can strike. We then have more pedal and then a little dominant sort of B, and then it goes into E minor again. And a lot of these sort of tones here are just sort of scale tones of, you know, E harmonic minor. With the odd sort of, you know, lower neighbouring note, or upper chromatic neighbouring note, I suppose we can call it as well. We call it an auxiliary note generally in England and the UK. But it's exactly the same thing. Let's call it aux or N, like that. And he does that from time to time as well. So, and also interestingly enough, the bass note changes slightly. So it's more of a sort of, I call it sort of treading water progression. In other words, it's a sort of a tonic prolongation, but it's just with different bass notes, but they're still part of E minor. Like that. It's sort of a typical sort of 6-2-5-1 progression, really, in some ways. Sort of standard. So here we go. So the E minor, I just sort of, you know, copied the same sort of chord. Really, it's just E minor. So I mean, but I've taken actually that whole chord as that sort of thing. It probably isn't. It's probably just E minor, but just prolonged, and then C with a G in the bass. So really, but sort of a dominant, but actually in second version, then it goes back into the main theme. This time we got alto flute, cor anglais, bassoon one, vibes as well. Really interesting sort of colour actually. Slightly different. Same as 1M1, so what we've had before, then Dorian. And then sort of, you know, same again. So then arpeggiation. So again, same G flat major 7 with a sharp 5. So G flat augmented, but with a major 7th. Again, it's sort of it's pure jazz, altered dominant really, and then altered 2 really. Back to harmonic minor. So he changes the sort of, you know, chromatic versions and melodic versions of scales all the time, as well. This is still Dorian A, I suppose you could call it, just simply because of the fact that, you know, there's one F sharp in it and it starts on A. So lots of chromatic auxiliary notes and things like that, and then slight differences from before, little trills. And interesting enough, here the bassoon sort of sometimes cuts out depending on whether they can actually get up to the D or not. So if not, then the clarinet takes over and then the bassoon picks up from that note. But this is where the sort of chord changes to, the, you know, are, and all of these are now in root position. Like that. And then F sharp 7, but with a flat 9. So interestingly enough here, I've got a sort of found a sort of mistake. I'm not really sure. So it says it's with a B flat now, but it's previously B natural every single time it's happened. So I don't know whether that's actually a mistake. I think it's a mistake, but the trouble is it's very difficult to know whether it's a mistake or not, because it was still recorded as a B flat. But I wonder whether that was actually intentional or not. And, you know, they're not going to have time to sort of just have one demi-semi-quaver, you know, a whole retake for a demi-semi-quaver is just not worth the money, really. So then again, we have the theme, again E pedal, as well. All the same thing. It's all sort of trills and everything else. Sorry about the way it's written, but essentially just sort of E minor, F sharp minor, and then F sharp 7, C, E dim, and then E minor. This time, and it's sort of interesting sort of way of writing all of those. Wow, you know, sort of very rich block chordal harmonization at that point. Same thing again, G minor, this time with second inversions. So F sharp 7, but with C in the bass. I should probably just put that as well at that point. Dum, bum, bum. And then again, sort of E minor sharp 4. I've called it that, but really it's just a substitute dominant. Or like that. But with the wrong note, with the sort of A sharp, B flat type sort of thing going to E minor. But again, just normal Hungarian minor, like that as well. So let's just do that. Hungarian minor. Just because of that sharp 4, that's why it sort of seems to work quite nicely, because that acts like a dominant. And interesting enough, you got both that sort of sharp 4 and also the real dominant at the same time as well. Happens again. This time we can sort of see how the arpeggiation works in this point. And here we've got some slightly different sort of chords at that point. And then it happens again. The theme happens again. This time with slight rhythmic alteration. It's like a mad waltz. You know, a typical John Williams figure rhythmically at that point as well. This time just on trumpets. This time as well, violins divided, and we've got these sort of amazing sort of you know, viola and cello glisses going on at the same time as well. So that's not very clear in there. So violin 1, 2 in the theme, and then we've got viola and VC1 as well, sort of up there, and then VC2 and bass is just at the where it is. Same thing, same key as well, doesn't modulate. And then it says D sharp in the score, but pretty sure there's a mistake in the other parts. So there's a D sharp written there, but actually surely it must be a C sharp, because otherwise it doesn't really make much sense. I'm sure it's a C sharp, but you never know, because there is that C sharp there as well, but there's no D sharp, but there is, I suppose, there, and there is there. So you get a sort of very strange thing. I'm sure it's a mistake, but again, we don't really know. Both are completely acceptable and both make sense. Then again, a sort of treading water figure, or more of a coda. Like that, sort of interesting sort of treading water type sort of progression, by which I mean tonic prolongation. Like that, you know, basically it descends sort of chromatically or whatever, sometimes not, just by tone, like that, and it still remains tonic, which is why I haven't put sort of too much of that in. Again, F sharp 7 with C, C7 as well, and then sort of E Hungarian, and then we're ending in E, and then a little optional sort of pizzicato, which I think does actually exist on the recording. So this cue is actually rather curtailed in the actual film, but what I find interesting is what originally should have happened. So that's what we've done for this one. So, sort of short, really, and it's all about the theme and the variance of how that's done. Plain, lots of E pedals, this time with filigree in the strings, more filigree in the strings, but this time the melody with more doubling. More filigree but trilled, and just slight variance. This time with added brass, little pedals, and these sorts of interesting sort of, you know, if I just play that on the piano. So lots and lots of stuff going on at that point. And then again, more variants and other orchestration features going on. So the orchestra really drives this whole cue, because otherwise it's just the same music again and again and again, relentlessly, really, in E minor, with our little sort of coda at the end, but still 77 bars of goodness. And so that's that cue. So that's kind of it, really. I hope you enjoyed it. I went to all the effort of doing a little video. I probably didn't need to, but in terms of my face. But anyway, that's it. All for now, and I look forward to the next one. See you again soon.